We don't. Look, I know. Would somebody please tell me why I am arguing with the skull on a shelf? Well, hello, spookies. How are you doing today? Yeah, me and Scully, we're arguing again. It's like an everyday occurrence around here. I might as well be married. Okay, maybe it's not to that extreme, okay? But look, we're arguing because he says that nurses tell ghost stories, and I'm like, no, they don't. I know. You have to really trust somebody to tell them your nurse and ghost story. But today, I have gone through Facebook and found in private groups around the web, I have found some stories I'm going to share with you because if you're a nurse, I would love for you to share your story. By the way, if you are new to this channel, I'm Silky, that's Scully, and at some point you may have a visit from my cat Sachi. I never know when she's going to show up. And here we like to tell true paranormal stories. I prefer the ones that you send to me directly. What is my hair doing? What is this? What is this? What look, I don't know what this is. Okay. We're going to have to live with it. So let's just dive on in. Now because these are from other groups, I have to keep them anonymous, okay? But I did actually take them from pages. Now, this author says, not completely nursing related, although it has happened at work too. Has anyone ever heard their name called when no one is around? It's clear as day, enough to get my attention, but no one is there. Sometimes when I'm sleeping too. It's so strange. I can't tell if it's male or female either. But it's startling. It certainly grabs my attention. Who or what do you think that this is? Do y'all ever have your names called? You know, I have several times around here, Mom, when no one's home. I've also heard my name other times in other places. Has this ever happened to you? And what did you think it was? Because we have a couple of responses to this. And tell me if you vibe with that. Yes, there were several of us at the nurse's station one early Sunday morning, and it was eerily quiet when each of us heard our name called at the same time. We all just looked at each other and said, "Did you hear something?" It was so creepy. Okay, to my understanding, this is three separate people heard their names called at the same time, but y'all have different names, right? So everybody heard did I have questions and there weren't answers to this, but I think it's really odd cuz do you have 3 ghosts who are in sync calling your names or is it one ghost and how do they do that? It's like are they throwing their voice? Are they I don't know. How does that work even? I think that is really creepy because although some of us have heard our name called, not everybody together when your names are different. So that was kind of an odd one. But let's see what else people have to say. I had it happen to me as well at work on a night shift, but mine came with a cold wind blowing down the corridor in the middle of summer, and our air conditioner was broken. When I turned to answer, I saw a black silhouette figure at the end of the hallway. Needless to say, I did a roadrunner and took off super quick. I reckon I would have passed. Is that Usain Bolt? Is that his name? I don't even know. Would have passed Bolt. I was running that quick. Well, now I thought about this, and I think I found a use for a ghost. It gets really hot here in Alabama. I mean, the southern heat, it's nothing to play with. Okay, it's it's not just hot; it's humid, so it makes the hot feel so much hotter. And ghosts, they say, have a chill. I don't usually feel a chill in the air with a ghost, but I don't know. Maybe that's me. But it would be nice. You know, can you call the ghosties in when it's really hot and stuffy and humid? Could you just kind of walk through the room, lower the temperature a little bit? Because I think that would be a good ghost job. especially for people like nurses who helped people their whole lives, dedicated their lives to it. And then in the afterlife, you can bring the cold air on hot days. That would be fabulous. You know, I'm looking into entrepreneurship when I pass over. So maybe I will start a ghost air conditioning agency. You know, hey, I think it could be done. You have to think outside the box. Yeah. Hmm. I'm getting plans for the afterlife. This one says, I'm a hospice RN and I was walking down the hall of an LTC. For those of you, long term care facility like a nursing home, what you'd call. I've had quite a few patients there, and I was on my way to see one. I heard my name called loud and clear. I turned around and said, yeah. The CNA and med tech didn't call me, and they also didn't hear it. I've had it happen quite a few times. I've also gotten chicken skin for no reason while walking by the nurse's station. Okay, that term chicken skin, you're not from the US. So we call it goosebumps, all right? But I have heard people call it turkey bumps, turkey skin, all this kind of stuff. I think it happens, to everybody. And when you're working in a facility, you assume it's a coworker, and then a lot of times you can just pass it off like, I don't know who that was. It was patient, a staff member, whatever. But what if it isn't? I mean, it's hard to tell in the day, but at night when something happens like that, yeah, it can get quite spooky. Okay, here is a different story. I work in a LTC as a CCA. When I started working on the dementia unit, there was a lady close to 100 who was very progressed dementia. Well, good for her. She made it to 100. I mean, I'm thinking at 100, we're not supposed to have all our marbles. I mean, does anybody really expect this? Because I don't. She didn't make much sense, but chanted all the time. One day, as I was providing care to her, she was chanting and looking out her window, I thought, but then she started speaking full sentences to someone who wasn't there. She called him Frank, and she was making fun of me and laughing to him about me changing her. She then said, oh, she's only 24. She had never met me before. I was 24, and Frank was her dead brother. There's something about this story that makes me think I might have told this one. If not this exact one, something very similar, a similar situation somewhere, maybe way back in the beginning of my videos. But I think that's really wild how she doesn't really know you. She doesn't really talk. She just chants. Look, I would be freaked out. I'd be like, Frank? Frank? Yeah. I think she's definitely like kind of tapping into the other side. What do y'all think about that one? Now, here's one that explains why we don't talk, okay? I joined this group because years ago I had an unexplainable experience and wondered if any other nurses had experienced something similar. I was working on a surgical unit. My patient had returned from the OR. He was stable and I was doing my routine checks. On my round, I found him lying beside his bed on the floor with no pulse and not breathing. I yelled at my colleague to call the code. I then picked this patient up off the floor by myself and threw him into his bed. He was well over 300 pounds and felt as light as a feather. I am a small female weighing 115 pounds. After the code team left, the doctor asked how we got him off the floor, and the other nurses on just pointed at me and said she just lifted him onto the bed. The doctor stared at me in shock and said, are you okay? I felt as though I had someone else there helping me lift this man back into his bed. He survived and was discharged after some time in an ICU. I truly believe there are angels among us. Yeah, we talked about in some of the angel videos that I've done and stuff, we've talked about having strange help. Some people would say this is adrenaline, and yes, it could be. We can do amazing things. I've had that happen to myself where you are able to lift or carry something that you can't budge. when you're not under duress like that. Let me tell you, even a 100-pound person is going to be almost impossible for one person, especially a small person, to lift back on a bed. So I think you definitely had help. And the fact that you felt a presence like somebody was helping you and this guy survived, I would say it is an angel either to help you or him. But wow, what a story. I hope they didn't just assume that you were a heavy lifter after that. Did they just call you and say, hey, we need help lifting over in room 202. Uh, yeah. Sorry, the power is gone. Yon yon. But I definitely know that things like this happen. Okay, this experience happened at the same psychiatric hospital as the other. I was working a 7P to 7A shift on Saturday night, so we only had one other tech and one nurse. Oh my God, do I understand weekends and being short staffed? When we weren't doing hall checks, we did paperwork. Sometimes the nurse would go on break, and so would the other tech, leaving me alone. Yep, alone. Bless your heart. Look, been there, done that, but bless your heart. I didn't like it, but I had the radio on low, so it wasn't so quiet. I just finished a hall check and went behind the desk to do paperwork. I thought I heard one of the patients awake, so I looked down the hall. Nothing. Going back to my paperwork, I felt like someone was watching me. I looked up over the plexiglass divider that surrounded the nurse's station. Nothing. Then, as I glanced up again, it was the top of a blonde head. Oh, great, I thought. One of the patients is awake, trying to scare me. Sneaky. I stood up and looked out over the plexiglass. Nobody was there. I walked up and looked in on each patient. Everyone was asleep. That's when I remembered the other workers telling me about the photo of the ghost children. Oh, they had them on photo. A little blonde haired girl and a boy. I guess she was curious. So I'm assuming that somebody took a picture of them or something at one time or other. And yeah, I would love to see it. But I have no idea where this happened at. But, this y'all know how I feel about the kid ghosts, though. They really do freak me out. I just don't think kids should be wandering around in the afterlife, scaring people. Why is it? Why is it that it's so freaky? Is it because TV and movies have made it scarier to see little kid ghosts than adult ghosts? Sorry, if you hear weird noises, that's my dog. Or it could be my house, but I think you're going to be hearing the dog. Let's take a poll. Would you rather see an adult ghost or a kid ghost? Which one would you find scarier? All right. Just kind of curious. Is it just me? Okay, many years ago, I was a tech at a mental hospital. This hospital still runs today and has been around for at least 100 years. It got its start as a hospital for tuberculosis and over the years grew into a larger hospital. I worked on all the floors, but the whole energy of the hospital was different at night. I understand. Yes. The night of my encounter was a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. I had to go down to the end of the hall behind a set of metal doors and do laundry by myself. After putting the laundry in the washer, I had to use the bathroom, so I went in one of the empty rooms that had an open bathroom. I had left the door slightly open so I could hear if anybody else came. After sitting down, I heard a noise. And that, my friends, is the last time you you want to hear a noise, all right? Not in that situation. I heard it again. It was the doorknob. I froze. Then I saw the knob slowly turn and move. I decided to hurry up and leave. As I walked out of the bathroom, I was expecting to get scared by one of my coworkers that had somehow managed to sneak past the loud doors. There wasn't anyone down there but me. I walked back toward the room I was in and walked over to the window. As I looked out, I suddenly felt the hair stand up on my neck, and then I felt a hand around each finger. What? I felt a hand and each finger on my right shoulder. I couldn't move. Yeah. I waited on something else, but then I felt nothing and turned and left the hall. I walked up to the nurse's station and asked if anybody else had been there. No. That wasn't the last of my experiences at the hospital. After several, I decided to find a new job with fewer ghosts. Well, I noticed how you said fewer and not any, because if you're in a hospital, you're probably going to have a couple. Maybe they don't show up as often. Yeah, the whole each finger, it's one thing to feel a brush on, against your back and shoulder, and I felt that a lot of times in a lot of situations, but to feel the fingers, oh, yeah. And what is with them finding you vulnerable in the toilet? I mean, come on. Again, y'all have to have some boundaries. This is not the place that you harass somebody. Because what are you going to do? I mean, maybe it's a good thing you're on the toilet because, the inevitable. But still. I'm just saying, ghosties, it's not okay. Okay, so that is all I have for today. Look, I've got some more nursing ghost stories, I've got some letters, and I have another episode of Bedtime Ghost Stories coming up in a few days, and that is going to be an hour long. So if you like to listen to scary stories when you're going to sleep, like creepy people like myself do, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I don't know. But I find it very relaxing to hear somebody read me ghost stories. I'm sure that there is a diagnosis for that, but I don't want to know what it is. All right. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. Oh, Scully says if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I will see you later. But whatever you do, just stay spooky. Bye bye.